This is Ecotricity's EcoTEC Roundup show from Aotearoa's first and only climate-positive certified renewable electricity provider. We only source from wind, hydro and solar, and we are the leading supplier of electricity to EVs in Aotearoa. Search today at ecotricity.co.nz. Welcome back to another roundup of news for the world of clean cars and green energy. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to start today's show with some fantastic news, specifically that all those EVs sitting unsold across the country are finally selling as discounts kick in. I know. I'm sure, like me, you'd much rather we were reporting on the high sales volumes of EVs thanks to generous incentives, just like I was able to report on at the end of last year. But in September, EV sales in Aotearoa soared compared to previous months this year, thanks to all of those discounts being applied to EVs by car dealers looking to sell them. According to Motor Industry Association registration data for September, 874 EVs found new homes during the month, nearly double the number of EVs that have been sold every month so far this year on average. But don't expect this to last. With no change in policy on EV RUCs and the government firmly not interested in EV purchase incentives, it's unfortunately likely to get worse before it gets better. Sorry. On Thursday evening in the US, Friday local time, Tesla held its highly anticipated reveal event for its fully autonomous Robotaxi future vision. Front and centre was the Tesla Robotaxi, officially now called the Cybercab. A two-seat vehicle with no manual controls, Elon Musk called it individualised mass transit and claimed that it would help eliminate parking spaces, operating at an adjusted cost of 30 cents per mile. Musk also claimed that Tesla would sell them to private customers for under $30,000. Admitting his own optimism on timeframes, Musk said Tesla would start fully autonomous robotaxi operation using Model 3 and Model Y next year in California and Texas, with a planned start of production for Robotaxi of 2026. Tesla also unveiled the Robovan, or as Elon Musk called it, the Robovan, a 20-seat autonomous minibus straight out of iRobot. An update was given on Tesla's Optimus robot, which Elon Musk now says will cost less than a car. The event had plenty of hyperbole and promise, but it's worth noting Tesla has historically overpromised and underestimated complexity at these kind of events. As is often the case with Tesla reveals, I'm sure we'll hear more details in the coming days. Sticking with US automakers, we're heading to General Motors next, which held its annual Investor Day this week, and during the event, it made some big EV promises. First off, we learned that GM is officially retiring its Ultium nameplate for EV batteries and platforms as part of an effort to make EVs more profitable for the company. How does dropping a name make it easier to make money? In a word, sourcing. Ultium specifically relates to batteries GM co-developed with LG Energy Solutions, and in moving forwards, GM says it wants to diversify its battery technologies and cell chemistry portfolio, with a particular focus on shifting away from NCM cells toward LFP. And at that same event, GM President Mark Royce said that will allow GM to sell the next generation Chevrolet Bolt EV for the same price as its predecessor, while simultaneously being profitable for the company. While some analysts and futurists are starting to grow disillusioned with eVTOL craft, Joby Aviation was celebrating a new investment this week from Toyota. While Toyota had previously invested in Joby Aviation to the tune of nearly $400 million, this new investment of $500 million will help Joby work towards bringing a competitive eVTOL air taxi service to market. But what's particularly of interest here is that unlike most of its competitors, who have primarily focused on battery electric airplanes, Joby has been working on a hydrogen electric eVTOL craft through its subsidiary H2Fly. Given how enthusiastic Toyota is on the future of hydrogen fuel cells, its newest investment in Joby was, I'm sure, influenced by H2Fly's work. it's well known that vehicles in the US and Canada are, on average, far larger and more dangerous than they are in other parts of the world. And for the most part, other countries are increasingly reluctant to see an increase in availability for these kinds of vehicles. But this week we learned that just like its rival, the Ford F-150 Lightning, the Ram 1500 REV electric pickup truck will be heading to select European markets. Due to launch in Europe by the third quarter of next year, Ram says that it will offer best-in-class towing, driving range and payload capacity, but like the F-150 Lightning, it's likely going to be a niche purchase as it's very much oversized for the majority of European buyers. It's also important to note most European fleet vehicles are vans rather than pickup trucks. Personally, despite owning an F-150 Lightning, which is primarily used as a crew vehicle when we need to haul massive amounts of people and camera gear, and which is replaced by a small hatchback or two-wheeler on my own fleet when possible, I think we need to end the focus on massive EVs and focus on small, practical ones instead. For the past few years, Tesla has been ramping up production of its 4680 form factor cell, a cell that it says is far superior to the 2170 cells it replaces. A few weeks back, we told you that Tesla had just celebrated producing its 100 millionth 4680 form factor cell, and this week we're hearing insider rumours about what lies in the future of that cell, with claims made that Tesla is now working on 4 different variants of the cell for different applications, each with their own specific cell chemistry and dry-coated cathodes. Codenamed NC05, NC20, NC30 and NC50, these cells will each suit a specific task within Tesla's vehicle lineup, with NC05 expected to feature in Robotaxi, Cybertruck and Semi. Meanwhile, NC20 and NC30 are destined for mainstream Tesla models, with NC50 rumoured to be the highest performance cell variant for vehicles that require large current draw. Recent fears about electric bicycle battery pack fires in the UK has led eBay to announce that, as of the end of this month, it will ban private e-bike sales on the platform in the country. While eBay hasn't confirmed a similar ban in other countries, there's been mounting pressure on regulators in the UK to restrict e-bike sales after a high-profile case involving a man who was killed while sleeping after an e-bike battery pack caught fire. And data published recently by the London Fire Brigade says that e-bike fires has risen by 78% year over year. Prior to this week, eBay had implemented audits of sellers to make sure that bikes being sold had CE certification, but now says it will restrict sales of e-bikes and e-bike batteries to, quote, eligible business sellers, end quote, without specifically detailing what would be required to qualify as eligible. Watch this space. Motorsport has always been a fantastic way of getting people engaged in a particular brand or type of vehicle, and for years automakers have used competition spec race car variants of in-production cars to drum up consumer interest. This week, Škoda unveiled its latest in a long history of high-performance vehicles based on production cars, but this time it's all electric. Enter the Enyaq RS Race, a rally-prepped all-electric coupe concept that, despite being a concept vehicle, is actually capable of showing the competition up on the racetrack. As part of the reveal, Škoda let its Fabia RS Rally 2 driver Oliver Solberg out on the track to showcase just what it was capable of. Complete with hydraulic handbrake and 340 horses, it sets the groundwork for a future where EVs outnumber ICE vehicles on the rally course. I cannot wait. This year, we've been watching the slow unravelling of Fisker as it first found itself halting production, then declaring bankruptcy, and this week we've 2 more updates on the firm. First, it appears that the sale of Fisker's remaining unsold vehicle stock to leasing company American Lease, won't happen. The reason? American Lease is not able to transfer the information connected to each Fisker Ocean to a new computer server not owned by Fisker. Without being able to transfer the information, those vehicles can't be operated after Fisker's liquidation, and as such, the company has filed an objection to Fisker's current liquidation plans. At the very same time, the US Securities and Exchange Commission has filed an objection to the same, stating that Fisker's plan includes a prohibited non-consensual third-party release. The SEC has also confirmed it's in the process of investigating Fisker's books and records. I'll keep you posted. Finally, for the segment, some good news, specifically that the International Energy Agency now believes that renewable energy could meet almost 1/2 of global electrical demands by 2030. In its just released Renewables 2024 report, it projects that by the end of the decade, renewable energy capacity worldwide will grow by more than 5,500 gigawatts, about as much power as currently produced by the US, China, India, and the EU combined. The really good news is that while some governments are still dragging their metaphorical heels on policy, renewable energy is now by far the cheapest option for new power generation capacity in many countries, and that fact is driving a massive growth in renewable electricity investment. The fly in that ointment? The need to expand electrical grid capacity to deal with the massive amount of massively distributed renewable energy generation, something which mercifully many countries are now starting to take really seriously. Before we get to the last two stories, I have a quick question. Are you in the market for a new EV? Because if you are, and you live in Aotearoa, you should totally check out our very own buyer's guide at ecotricity.co.nz. It's packed with all the information you need to pick a car that's right for you. It includes plenty of details about available vehicles, daily life with an EV, and so much more. So follow the link below and start your journey today. We might even see a raise in sales in October as well. If you've watched this show for any length of time, you'll know that I am a total fan of classic cars, and classic cars converted from suck, squeeze, bang, blow to whee! Personally, I prefer DIY converted cars like the one Gavin Kiwi EV Shoebridge is doing right now. He's converting a classic Austin Allegro to all-electric. But I've also got to admit I love seeing a good no-budget spared Restomod of a classic car. This week, Kia in the UK followed in the tyre tracks of many an automaker making a retro-themed EV, and aided by bespoke EV conversion specialist Electrogenic, it's converted a 1990s Kia Pride to all-electric power to celebrate Kia's 80th anniversary. It might not be a Land Rover or a Jaguar as per Electrogenic's usual specialities, but it looks the part, and it takes me back to the 1990s when I was a spotty junior in high school. And finally, it has been impossible this week not to see the true breadth of destruction left behind after Hurricane Helene and more recently Hurricane Milton passed over the southeast of the US. But while there have been some truly horrific news surrounding the devastation and some truly despicable things being said and done by those seemingly more interested in disinformation than helping folk, including from some folks in the EV world, we heard some amazing stories this week of EV owners helping keep essential things running when the power went out, thanks to their EV. Some of you have reached out to let us know that you've been able to use your EV to keep things charged and powered. And as several outlets covered this week, one veterinary clinic was able to keep essential equipment running by powering their facilities from the back of a Ford F-150 Lightning and the vehicle-to-grid capabilities of a Kia EV9. If you're willing and you're able, please consider donating to the relief efforts. There are several international trustworthy charities now collecting funds to help out with disaster relief. And on that note, we're done for the day. But before I go, do make sure you've hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest in EV news from the channel. And of course, if you haven't switched yet, why not switch to Aotearoa's first and only climate positive certified renewable electricity provider? It is super easy to make the switch, and in doing so, you'll help the nation wean itself off dirty energy and onto clean green power that will keep the land beautiful for generations to come. I'll be back next week as usual, and in the meantime, do check out other videos on this channel, including from the lovely Gavin Kiwi EV Shoebridge. Thanks for joining me. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. Have an amazing rest of the day. Gagite. See you next time.